Hello friends, welcome back to Raju Notes channel, your weekly updates every Sunday. And we have been looking at the world this week, and the major focus has been on the Russia and Ukraine war which is going on. And I have made a separate video on that, and which tells you the reasons why it is being done. So we will cover all other events other than the Russia Ukraine in this update. After the successful utilization of the Israeli defense system, that is air defense system by the name of Iron Dome, which we saw that was so successful during its conflict with Gaza, wherein it intercepted numerous, almost thousands of rockets at one particular time. Israel has successfully tested a new variant of the Iron Dome, which is called as C Dome. It is alphabet C and Dome. So, in case you hear something about C Dome, you should be clear that this is a variant, a naval variant of the Iron Dome, which is used for intercepting the incoming aerial threats. And this has been a very successful test. After WikiLeaks to Panama leaks, now one more leak has come into the news. This is called as Credit Suisse leak. And here, why is it important? Because this leaks basically brings out all the data of the accounts covered from maybe from 1940 onwards to 2010. And Pakistan now is in trouble because almost about 600 accounts linked to about 1400 Pakistani citizens has been exposed, and out of these there are numerous politicians and various army generals, and even the ex-ISI chief General Atul Akbar Rahman Khan is also there in this leaks. And it is a proven fact now that the ISI was transferring funds to Afghan Mujahideens and during their fight against Russia. So basically, Pakistan as a country has been into terror financing, and this is one of the proofs for the same. A very good news this week: 16-year-old Indian R. Pragnanda, who's a resident of Chennai, Tamil Nadu, has been victorious against world number one in chess, that is Magnus Carlsen. Pragnanda, we knew that when he became a grandmaster when he was age of 12, and he was youngest international master when he was at age 10. But this is a great news for the country, great news for this prodigy. And Pragnanda is presently world number 165, but he has to his credit of beating the world number one in his game. As often I have been referring to that in the present day scenario, no country is powerful, no person is powerful other than that of a social media, the one who controls it. So basically Facebook and Twitter likes are the most powerful people on this planet. So the live example was that while Donald Trump was a president of US, his accounts were kind of closed, or he was debarred from these social medias, and being the most powerful man on the globe, he couldn't do anything about it. So finally president vowed that time that he would come against it, but he tried and he failed for many times. But finally now the former US President Donald Trump has launched his own new social media app, which is called as Truth Social app, and this is available in the Apple Store. The day it was put on the Apple Store, it was most downloaded app, and for some time Apple Store crashed on that day. So let's see, can it reach to that strength and power of that of the Twitter and or that of Facebook? If yes, then the competition is on. Amidst all these tensions going around between Russia, Ukraine, and the European Union, India has continued to maintain its diplomatic backdoor channels with the Afghanistan Taliban regime. India has promised a lot of humanitarian aid, and we have now sent the first shipment of wheat to Afghanistan through Pakistan on Tuesday, that is this week. And this is the first batch of that 50,000 metric tons of wheat which the Indian government had committed to the Afghanistan. And last week, India had also supplied about 2.5 tons of medical assistance and some winter clothing to this crisis-torn country. So one should always remember that whatever be the case, whatever be your external things, but the diplomatic channels between two countries and backdoor negotiations should never cease to exist, and that is what makes a country more powerful. Again, a good news coming in. Finally, three Rafales have landed on Tuesday, and these jets took off from French airbase and they directly landed in India with mid-air refueling support by UAE. You should know that all the aircrafts, whatever 35 aircrafts out of 36 aircrafts which we got from France, they all were either had a pit stop in UAE or were refueled mid-air by the UAE Air Force. So that is what is the power of having diplomatic channels open with countries. So we have last update we have seen how UAE has come with collaborations with India and making investments of about $100,000 in next 5 years. So coming on to the Rafale aircraft, so 35 out of 36 jets have already reached India. The last aircraft will probably arrive in next few days. So out of 35, we know that 30 jets have landed without any stop with mid-air refueling. Under India's national supercomputing mission, 10 supercomputers have already been installed across 10 institutes in India by far, and we have 5 more supercomputers which are in the final stages. They will be soon, and that makes it 15 supercomputers to be placed across the India. And the mission of this national supercomputing is that India should be self-sufficient at indigenizing and developing and manufacturing of these powerful computers. We have known that earlier this month, a supercomputer by name of Pravega was successfully installed at IISc Bangalore, and this has got a speed of 3.3 petaflops. That is, I think, 10 to the power of 15 cycles per second. So that is a super speed, and we require such computers throughout the India so that our overall digital enhancement of the country or progress of the country can be on a much better pace. So we know that by the end of 2022, total of 9 supercomputers are to be commissioned. Whenever on the globe there was a conflict and people were caught in between two war-torn nations, India has somehow regained that respectable position wherein it could extract its own citizens without any problem, to an extent that even US depends on India to extract its people. We have seen every time there has been a problem in Middle East, India has always played up to it, and the Indian Air India has always lived up to its expectations, and we have seen our external affairs doing excellent job and pulling out people from there. We did send some Air India flights to bring the Indians basically from Ukraine and Russia amidst the tension. And we know that majority of the MBBS students go to Ukraine and Russia for their studies. So good job there by the diplomatic front and the Air India. I know that this week has been completely dominated by the Russian and the Ukrainian war which is going on. I had already covered that as a separate video just about 2 days back as to what are the reasons why these two countries are at war, and you can please see that in case you need more information that here. But today we will see briefly as to why we need to be more careful on this, because now there is a precedence which has been set on the globe. That is, all these so-called developed and superpowers, including the European Union and the USA and UK, they failed to do anything to stop Russia from attacking Ukraine. And so-called sanctions did not make any rather effect onto Russian President Vladimir Putin. But at the same time, what does India have to look out? now the same template is kind of ready with China. China is now planning to do the same thing with Taiwan. And as of yesterday, China had sent in about 40 of its fighter jets into the airspace of Taiwan, though there did not happen any attack. But the template is set, the template is same. And what will the world do in case China maybe tomorrow attacks Taiwan? What, as such, US could not do anything to Russia. So do you think that US will play up here if China attacks Taiwan? Does Russia, Australia, Japan, and why not us? What will be India's reaction to this kind of attack if something happens? This is what has to be understood, explained, and probably can be a question which will be asked to you in any kind of an interview or some kind of a test. So please think about this subject as to what should be India's action in case China attacks Taiwan. And moreover, with this all this attacks happening on Russia and Ukraine, you have seen world leaders are now condemning India as to why India is not condemning this issue or not speaking about it. Why should we? Was there any of these Western countries which said that when India Galwan happened, did any of the countries pick up their voice and say what China did was wrong? So when they can't do such thing, expecting such thing is also not correct. Anyway, that is just again a point of discussion and debate, but keep your faculties open for such kind of a debate or a question. India has been doing a lot of software strikes on China. We had seen earlier post Galwan that India had banned quite a lot of apps by the Chinese, which include the famous TikTok and also the PUBG game. This week, India has banned about 54 apps of China. And out of that, there was one of the biggest firm was that of Singapore-based C Limited. And its game was called as Free Fire. Again, a game something like PUBG, and because of this banning, C Limited had lost over 16 billions in one day. So that is the power of the soft skills or soft power that India is trying to exercise. Now one might ask, why did we give kind of a damage to Singapore-based company? But though it is Singapore-based company, but it is the finances or the backing is done by those of Chinese. And also you must have noticed that Singapore has been all the time condemning the Indian government. So maybe a subtle way of telling that we still have the upper hand. Recently, Indian the Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary brought out a new kind of a threat. He said that China has recently demonstrated ability of physically moving its disabled satellites in the space to another orbit. Well, if this is so, it is such a great risk for any nation or any country on this planet, because if a disabled satellite can be moved from its original orbit and can be made to enter into probably the Earth's orbit, and with the correct planning and precision, maybe it can be used as a huge missile onto something very important. So this is a new kind of a threat. One should be aware of such kind of a threats when in the present changing scenario. So be aware of this fact, and what can be the countermeasures for such kind of a threat is what you should be aware of. Recently, that is yesterday, there was a US-sponsored resolution in United Nations Security Council which deplored in the strongest terms the Russian attack against Ukraine. And India, though it was vetoed by Russia, that is the unfortunate power which all the 5 countries have, and though it was vetoed, but 3 countries who abstained from this was China, India, and UAE. So though it was trying to bring out many things, but India did not participate. Well, this is a correct step by India as of now in the present day scenario. This so-called aggression and Ukrainian threat, this will all subside down, but long-term relations have to be kept in mind. This is just what we talked of, the Russia vetoing United Nations Security Council. Now, this brings us to the very important question as what can be asked to you in interviews, or maybe a thinker type of question, is to analyze the need of organizations like United Nations and WHO. The pandemic, the COVID had proved that WHO has got nothing other than just a talk kind of a organization wherein millions and millions of dollars have been poured, and they are down the drain with absolutely no effect. And United Nations Security Council is that organization without any teeth and which can't do any resolution of a conflict. So why should India even try to become a permanent nation member into this United Nations? Or is it required that India becomes a permanent member in United Nations and continue to pour in dollars and millions of dollars into it without any use of it? This is a very, very debatable question. So we'll have to think about it. Now, everyone should, in the present day scenario, must be aware of something called as SWIFT. Well, as the crisis between Russia and Ukraine has deepened, now SWIFT is called as the Society for Worldwide Intra-Bank Financial Telecommunications. Well, SWIFT is the one which allows the smooth and rapid transfer of money across the continents or borders. This is a Belgium-based system which has about links with about 11,000 banks over 200 countries. And Russia is the second largest in terms of number of users. So if SWIFT decides and stops its service to Russia, then Russia will hard time, or Russian companies will hard time either getting the money or paying the money for the imports or the exports or any kind of a transaction which will happen. So this is a very major thing which we have to see. Probably this will be more powerful than the physical assault on the country itself. So as of now, United Kingdoms, United States, Canada are rallying that the SWIFT remove Russia from its page. Well, these are the things which have happened this week. These are other than what is happening majority of Russia and Ukraine, but these are not to be missed. Well, that's all, friends. If you are hearing me for maybe second time, third time, fourth time, but you have not subscribed to my channel, may I kindly request you to please subscribe to my channel and stay updated every Sunday for such short and crispy news updates. Stay safe. Thank you.